Alright, I'm going to throw you a little curveball today and talk about chords. When we think about what chords really are, okay, we want to think about multiple tones played together. Okay, so this is an example of a tone. Alright, but this is an example of a chord. So you see how I play multiple tones at once versus just this. Alright, why do we have chords in music? Well, something that's useful about chords is it fills out more musical structure, right? Provides more context, lets the listener know a more specific direction that you're going in, all that kind of stuff. Brings out the harmony beneath the music, right? Which is a very fun thing to reveal. Alright, so how do we make chords, and how do we know, how to construct them and where they come from, all that kind of stuff? Well, let's take a tune that we had learned that we can relate this to. So, Julianne Johnson, for instance, is a tune that we have learned at AJAM, and that is in the key of D major. Alright, so what does that mean, being in the key of D major? Well, it means a key is a certain set of notes or tones that a scale is made out of. And a scale is a group of tones as well that make up that key. So, for instance, if I'm playing in the key of D major, I start off on my D as the root. D is the root of that key, D is the root of that scale. Alright, so then if I have this, and I play up the scale, there's usually 7 tones in a scale, okay? And a lot of this stuff is just, is all made up by us. This isn't the be-all, end-all of how music works, but it's how we best understand it so far. So there's 7 tones in a scale, usually. So that would be like this. Alright, that's a regular D major scale right there. So get your fiddles out and play along with this. I have D, first finger on the D, playing an E, second finger on the D, and that second finger I'm doing is sharp, so it's not this. It's a sharp second finger hitting this tone. And then I have G with my third finger on the D. Alright, that goes right next to the second finger, the previous note. And then I switch to my A string, open A. And I do that same shape up the A string. So I have A, first finger, second finger sharp, and then D, third finger on the A string. Alright? If you want to, you can walk it back down as well. Alright, so that's the basic major scale. So when we're playing in the key of D, those are the tones, and of course this is a generality, but those are the tones that you're going to use. So no matter where you're at on the neck of the fiddle, if you're up here, everything I just played right there is in the key of D major because I was using all the same notes that I just showed you that were in that scale, okay? Alright, so where do the chords come from now? Alright, so chords are groups of tones within that scale. So for instance, if I started on my D here, and then skipped the first finger, and then played the second finger, then I would have this. Alright, and then if I skipped my third finger and played the open A instead, that would sound like this. Okay, and so then when I do that, that's actually the most common chord in music. So that would be a D major chord. Alright, and so then if I played all those tones together, it would sound like that. Of course, that's tough to do, which is why in bands you'll mostly see guitar players or piano players or somebody covering the chords, because when a fiddle player does it, you only have 4 strings and you have limited options, right? And also you have a bow, so it's hard to get that rhythmic sound that a guitar player or a piano player is going to do. But the reason I'm showing you what chords are is because they're such a big part of the music that you'll be playing in the future, and the earlier you know about them, the better. Okay, so D major chord, and a really useful tool is to start implementing numbers into the way you think about music. Alright, so if I have the D here, and that's the 1, D is 1 because I'm in the key of D major. D is 1. The next note, your first finger is 2. Your second finger is 3. Fourth finger is 4. Sorry, third finger is 4. Already getting confused here. A is 5. Your open A there is 5. Your first finger on the A is 6. Your second finger on the A is 7. Right? So remember how we had 7 notes in the scale. So then when I get back up to my third finger on the A, that's also a D note. So we just closed that gap. Now we're back on the 1. Alright, so every time you get to a D, no matter if it's in this register, or this register, or this register, think of that as the 1 again. Okay, so once you get at the 7, past the 7, then you're back on the 1. Okay, so when I think of those then, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. When I think of it that way, then it becomes a lot easier to construct chords and work across keys. Because it can get a little confusing because there are like 12 keys, you know, and so when we're trying to, implement things that we know in one key into another one, it can get really confusing if we're thinking about letter names, but if we're thinking about numbers, it's easier. So let's go back to that major chord that we talked about, the most common chord in all of music, this one. I constructed it by playing the open D, and then second finger on the D, and then open A. Alright, so a lot of people think of that D major chord as this simple way, if we go back to our number scheme, as being 1, 3, and 5. Okay, so a major chord is 1, 3, 5. So if we go back to our scale, we have 1, 2, 3. Here it is. So that's our 3. So we have 1, 3, and then we keep going up. 4, 5. Here's our 5 on the A. So D, second finger, A. 1, 3, 5. 1, 3, 5. 1, 3, 5. 1, 3, 5. Okay? So 1, 3, 5 is the numbers to think about when you're coming up with major chords. And what's super cool about that is then no matter what key I'm playing in, if I go down to my G here, then I can find a G major chord by just doing that same thing. G, second finger, open D, and that becomes a 1, 3, 5 in G. Okay? So the 1, 3, 5 tones in a major scale is how you find your major chord. So I think that's a good intro for chord theory and to start getting your mind to think about music outside of just the physical method of playing it. You know, start thinking about it in a cerebral way, and you'll get some really cool stuff done.